everyone. So here I am. I am here. I already said that. Okay. I hate doing the beginnings of this.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime girl. Hey everybody, it's your favorite brownie with opinions. So I'm just gonna jump right into this horrible piece of shit that I saw, and my thoughts on it. So I know that the new Ghost in the Shell movie is coming out soon, and it stars Scarlett Johansson as Makoto. I think her name is Makoto or Matoko. I think it's Makoto Kusanagi, the main character of Ghost in the Shell. When I saw this public service announcement, I guess, about whitewashing or whatever, I lost my shit because it's ridiculous, and I'm sure by now you know how I feel on the subject and how much I hate that. So I am gonna go do some shit with that. Now, in order for me to accurately do a complete analysis of this video, I have brought my offended shades with me today. Why? Because I feel like in order to not find this public service announcement completely retarded in all ways, you have to already, be in the mindset to find everything offensive. Oh yeah, so she goes in and she sees all the little white girls in the comic book store. So I'm already going to debunk this one point right here, okay? This is bullshit and it's misleading. They're not even going by logic or reason or anything. They're just like, oh, look at this girl who feels so freaking left out from all the little whiteys. According to boopsy.com, which apparently, it is a credible source for demographics, I searched up the demographics of comic book and graphic novel readers in the United States. 5% of comic book and graphic novel readers are under the age of 17. This day and age, it's very weird to see a comic book store. I grew up in the suburbs, so there was only one comic book store and it was 25 minutes away in another part of town, so I don't know. I guess in the city you find things like that, especially in LA or New York or something like that. I'm just saying, demographically speaking, it's already misleading. You wouldn't see little girls in a comic book store based on the demographic that actually reads comic books. You'd probably see a bunch of guys over the age of 17, or, at this point, it feels like it'd be older people, maybe in their 30s. When I say older, I mean older than me. Older people in their 30s enjoying comic books from the past. Libraries now, they are actually the biggest holders of comic books and graphic novels. I feel like their demographics are a bit more accurate because more people frequent libraries than they go to comic book stores. 23% of readers of comic books and graphic novels are between the ages of 12 and 15. 16% are between the ages of 10 and 12, and 15% are between the ages of 15 and 18. This little girl and the other little girls in the comic book store, they probably are around 10 to 12. That is a very, very small demographic, so the fact that they use this, it's entirely misleading. white characters. Oh no, they don't understand my struggle as an Asian. They have no idea what I go through on a daily basis. They're just completely less relatable than if I found somebody who looked like me. Dude, why are you looking at comic books then if you're trying to look for an Asian person? There's an entire genre of comic books, graphic novels that are of Asian descent. They're Japanese, they're Korean, they're Chinese, and they make tons and tons and tons of references to the culture. You have no idea how many times I've read a manga and I have gotten to a page where there's some cultural reference that completely goes over my head because I'm not Japanese. But guess what? I don't get all butthurt about it and make a stupid public service announcement. I look at the footnotes that they have in the manga and I try to research it myself, and then I move on. And sometimes it is relatable, you know, when I look it up, and other times it's not. And even if it's not, okay, it's the experience of the character that I'm reading about. I don't understand why I personally have to relate to every single thing that is written in this comic. It seems like she's specifically looking for somebody who looks like her. Let me tell you, some of my favorite novels and authors and stories, none of the people in them are Indian. One of my favorite books is Trainspotting. Do you know what it's about? It's about a bunch of heroin addicts who live in Edinburgh, Scotland. How can I possibly relate to that at all? I can't. I've never done heroin. I'm not Scottish. I don't really know anything about Edinburgh. The only thing that I've really learned about it is what I've researched from it because I was really interested in what I was reading about. Even though I didn't look anything like these people in the book, and even though I didn't come from any sort of place near there, it was relatable. Even the way the book is written is in a Scottish accent, like literally the words. Irvine Welsh, he wrote the books so that when you read them, you can actually hear them talking in your head because all the words are transcribed into a Scottish dialect. The themes in the book are about the working class in Scotland during, I guess, the 80s and 90s, and the product of that and what kind of effect it had on the lives of young people in that time. You should just watch the movie. It is ridiculous in every single way. Actually read the book. If you like to read the book because I love the book so much more than the movie. How in itself is it not racist to only be looking for a character that looks like you? There's no guarantee that their experience has anything to do with yours. I can't relate to a lot of people in India because just because I'm Indian and because I might look like them, it doesn't mean that our experiences are the same at all. That child needs to be supervised. She passed up on this very manga looking character. So when you see her pick up the Ghost in the Shell thing, she immediately looks at the cover. Like that's what she's looking at, all this shit, you know. Oh, the person on the cover doesn't look like me or whatever. This is what really gets me about this whole thing. I can't believe it. None of this shit has anything to do with me, and none of these people speak my language or understand who I am. Oh wait, look, it's got kanji on it. Therefore, they can understand all my struggles, and just because there are letters on it that I probably can't read, this is automatically the one that is going to change my life and understand me. This is going to be the story that's going to shape my life. She never ever would have picked up the comic if it didn't have kanji on it. You know, like, you know, Chinese characters, but in Japanese. She never would have picked it up if it didn't have those characters on it. She would have no idea that the person on it is Asian if it weren't for the very obvious kanji. How on earth were you supposed to tell that the character was Asian by just looking at her? She looks exactly like the one from that other cover. to talk about Ghost in the Shell itself. I personally haven't actually read any of the manga or seen the anime, but I did do my research on it. I mean, I am a huge fan of, anime and manga. So when I did my research, I wanted to look up as much as possible about the story and the background and everything about Ghost in the Shell. Well, it turns out, if you didn't know, the story is about this girl named Makoto she's a police officer in this kind of dystopian future where technology basically runs the world. When she was a little girl, she got into some sort of accident, like a very, very severe accident that destroyed most of her body. So because it's the distant future, they decided to repair her body by basically turning her into a cyborg. So she doesn't really have organic parts, they're all synthetic. She is essentially an android. Now the whole point of Ghost in the Shell is that she is a machine. She was designed specifically for a purpose. She becomes a police officer, and because she's an android, she's able to do things that other people aren't able to. All of the iterations of it is basically about where's the difference between her body and the ghost that's inside it. So her personality and her, soul, if you will, like the person that she is compared to her body itself. She has no ethnicity. That was the whole point. They were trying to design this being that served their purpose, and her purpose is to basically solve crimes. She's supposed to be racially ambiguous. One, because her race doesn't matter. That's not the point of the story. The story doesn't talk about her background, her culture, or her anything. And in fact, she's had red eyes and purple hair and, a couple other different types of looks. The whole point is that it doesn't matter that she's Japanese. The other thing is that each iteration of the story is different. I've read that the original manga and the anime and a couple different movies, her personality changes drastically. It's really not set exactly who she is. There's even, I guess, spoilers. There's even a storyline where she sheds her body and she becomes this kind of cyberkinetic being who travels through the internet. This movie poster just ruined my life. Oh my god, it's not an Asian person. She doesn't look like me. My life is ruined. The color of your skin is completely irrelevant and arbitrary when it comes to fantastical adventures like this one. I could just relate so much better to this bodiless android, purple-haired cyborg machine if only she was brown. I just can't relate now. The whole point about good books and movies is that the themes in them are timeless and universal. They're not supposed to be relatable because of the character's ethnicity or skin color or eye color or something like that, unless their experiences are directly related to their culture. But even culturally significant movies have universally relatable themes. There's a Hindi movie called Lagan. The whole story is that it's in 1800 India and it's being ruled by Britain. They're taxing the shit out of a bunch of farmers who live in the middle of a desert in India. In order to get them to stop raping them for taxes, they challenge the British to a cricket game. They're in a drought, so they have no money. They have no livelihood because their crops won't grow, so they have nothing to sell, so they have no money to give to the British. The whole point is that despite the fact that everybody in the village is slightly different because there's a caste system to think about, there's a bunch of different inequalities that the villagers have to sort through, and just tensions are high, all of that stuff. The whole thing is that they come together and they form a cricket team that's completely unbeatable against the British, despite the fact that there are people who are untouchables playing with people who are at the top of the caste system. So that's completely relatable. I mean, how many movies have there been? How many stories and movies have there been about different people in different stratas of society coming together for a common goal? It's the same thing with Ode to My Father. It's a South Korean movie about the North and South Korean separation, and when North Korea was created. So it's about this little boy who escapes North Korea with his family. Unfortunately, while he's trying to escape, his little sister gets lost in the crowd, so his father goes to find her. And they're unable to board the boat before it leaves, so he, his mother, and his brother sail to South Korea to start a new life without the father and the sister. And before they leave, the father tells his son, go find your aunt and take care of the shop. And as soon as I can find a way out of here, I'll meet you at this shop in Busan. So he goes and he starts his life. And as the years and years go by, he waits for his father to come back. You go through the same experiences that he has growing up from being North Korean and living his life in the very rural South Korea that is building up as time goes on. You basically go through his entire life story, and at every turn there's something relatable. I couldn't stop bawling like during the entire movie because everything hit so close to home. I mean, you know, I haven't experienced any trauma like that, but there were certain things that I know that they were universally relatable. I don't want to spoil it, but at the same time, I kind of do. So if you haven't watched it, I suggest that you go watch it. I mean, I just want to talk about the ending. He waits and waits, and basically he becomes an old man who has his family and he's lived his entire life. And the end of the movie is he's sitting on a park bench with his wife and his friend, I believe, and he says, I think my father's too old to show up now. So, you know, he lives his whole life basically waiting for his dad. And holy shit, I'm just getting really sad, like, right now. Such a good movie. I totally suggest you watch it. It was so good. Anyway. So the whole point is that they have universal themes that we can all relate to, and that's what makes them so good. So here's the other thing that makes me really annoyed about this whole debacle, is that there's this whole controversy with changing the races of characters in order to, I guess, make people feel even more included. So a couple years ago when I was on Facebook, I saw an argument that a couple people that I know, they got into it. Apparently there's this whole group of people who'd like to see James Bond be black. I swear, nobody but SJWs cares about this type of shit. You're jumping up and down about a character that has no race. Makoto, she has no race. You're already getting all butthurt about that. But you want a character who has been established since, I want to say, like the 1960s, like when the first Bond book was written. You want to change a very well-known and very successful character just because you want, like, more inclusiveness in Hollywood. You're so upset about somebody changing a character's race from not white to white, and at the same time you want to change another character's race from white to black. But for the sake of argument, I feel like it's a little bit hypocritical that you're getting all butthurt about this one thing, but you're totally fine with this other thing just because it's from minority to not minority, and then not minority to minority. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I really, really, really enjoyed being offended. That was really fun. These were just my thoughts. I would certainly love to hear yours, and I want to hear about how the movie is. I'm sure just because it's Scarlett Johansson, that doesn't make it any more worse or any less terrible. I don't know. I mean, I know the story is slightly different, but that's the whole Ghost in the Shell thing. Anyway, this PSA just really, really pissed me off, so I just felt like I needed to say something about it. This whole thing, I mean, I feel like a few years ago, I would have been really upset about it too, because, oh my god, how dare you change the race of whomever. Does it really matter though? It doesn't. I mean, when you really think about it, you're gonna enjoy the story, you know, based on the person's race or not. I feel like that's completely irrelevant, especially in a story like this. So anyway, yeah, I really hope you enjoyed, and like I said, I would love to hear your thoughts, so go ahead and comment, and I will post the sources that I talked about in the description. So yeah, I will definitely see you soon. I'm probably going to release a new video tomorrow, so yeah. have a great night, guys, or morning, or wherever, depending on where you are. All right, I'll see you later. Bye.